Good afternoon, YouTube fam. Today I'm going to install the case drain kit on my Cat 308. I picked up this flail mower and it has a third line on it. Going to see which is to relieve the excess hydraulic pressure that's flowing through there when you're running the implement, and that excess fluid goes back into the hydraulic tank. Well, I've gone through 2 seals already. When I first bought that, I asked my salesman, I said, hey, does this have a case drain? He said, oh yeah, sure. There's 7 lines on here, 3 on this side and 4 on this side, and none of those are case drain. All of them are pressurized. These 2 run the automatic coupler, which I don't have on there, therefore they don't have any quick connect ends on them. And then there's another free line right there, but it too is pressurized. And then of course you have these here to run your different implements. So when I first bought it, I stuck it on one of these here, not really knowing, and sure enough, I blew the seal. So I did my research and I replaced the seal on the flail mower there, put it back up, and that's when I asked my sales rep, I said, hey, does this have a case drain? He said, oh yeah, absolutely. So I figured maybe I was just used the wrong one, put it back on there, and sure enough, boom, blew it again. I said no, and that's when I checked all the lines and found out that yeah, they were all pressurized depending on which way you push the switch. I did my research online, and some guys say they just teed into those lines going back into the tank there. I said that's a whole lot of work, and I saw that I did have a couple extra input lines, and I don't know if you can see them. Let's see if we can get in there. Anyway, there's a couple extra ports on this tank. So I just kept checking online and I came across the Cat part number for the case drain kit. Now I went to Cat parts online and really just typed in case drain kit, and a number came up, part number came up, and that part number is 6096155. But that is for several different, that kit works on several machines, from the 310 all the way down to the 304, and you get different fittings in there based on your machine. Now it also came with some instructions that you see right here, but again, you got to go through and make sure you got the right set of instructions for your machine. And I sat down with, shout out to John at Cat in Manassas, because he sat down with me and went through piece by piece and told me what fittings were for my machine. Now, it doesn't come with the hoses. I had to go to, I went to Cauliflower and had the hose made up. And that's a 27, almost a 27-foot long hose. And rather than make one long hose, I went ahead and had them split in half and make me 2. But you get some washers, get 2 new sets of screws for your brackets, you get your fittings, and like I said, here was a hose in, but it didn't call for it to go in my machine. I'll see if I get my money back for that. Here's an elbow, and here's another fitting. You get the bracket, you get your quick connector, then you get an adapter and a nut that goes on there. These are 4 separate pieces plus the dust cap, but I'd already put that together. So now we just put it on the machine. First thing we do is install the bracket. I'm deviating from the instructions. The instructions say put it on the other side, but I have a line right there that the bracket on the other side is holding. So I'm gonna leave that there and set that line over here. Set my case drain line on this side. But you get 2 new of these bolts in the kit. I think these are 18 millimeter, and I don't have my metric set with me. So 3/4 will work, but it's loose. Get you off of there. So replace that bracket with this bracket. These new screws are just a touch longer than the old ones, so I'm gonna swap to the new ones. You know, I wanted to avoid taking that off, but in order to replace the screw, I'm gonna have to take that line off. Get this one on. Don't want to get it too tight until I get both of them in there. But like I said, that's actually an 18 millimeter head on there, and I don't have my metric ratchet set or wrench set, so I'm using a 3/4. There we go. Gotta get you out of there, out of the way. Let's see if we can't get you mounted in there like you're supposed to be. Back together before I drain all my hydraulic fluid out. Oh, shucks. Still not enough clearance. All right. I'm going to tighten you down. We can get this hose back on there. All right. Now, got that set. Now, in accordance with the instructions, the elbow is what goes into the fitting on the stick. And then just walk this line up along the rest of the lines and secure it with the zip ties. So let me stick that on there. All right, the next line I'll start from the tank and run back. Now let's snake it down through the pivot. Some daylight there. Send it on down there. All the holes in there are filled up. I don't see any extra. So I'm gonna just run it down here for now. If I can get it in there without loosening that up. Let's see. There we go. Go to the other side. Once it goes in that pocket, it goes on through the pivot and onto the base of the machine. There's a panel I can remove. I can get it and send it on around to the other side where the tank is. See how far I can feed it in there. Nope. And once you got it through there, and you can just push it straight through there. And with the panel out your way, then you can see down in there to route it all the way around. In order to take this panel off, there's 6 bolts, 18 millimeter, 2 here, 2 on the side, and 2 at the top. And they're pretty tight too. I've had these things fairly recent, so they shouldn't be this hard. Now that we can see down in there, you reach in there and pull that hose on through and route it on in there. Now that we're in the hydraulic compartment, you sneak it on through. And hope you have enough to reach it. And yes, we do. We still got two auxiliary ports coming out of my tank. One there, and there's one hidden by that hose right there. Let's see if I can. All right, yeah, one hose there, and then get the line out the way. Two ports. I'm gonna stick it in the upper one, and as you can see, we have enough line made up where we can, once we put the fitting on there, it'll work. Now this hose connects to the cooler and it leads out of the tank. So I'm gonna disconnect it here and drain the tank as much as I can. Getting it all over everything as best I can. Still pretty messy, but now I'm willing to bet you, since this line to the cooler is above those ports, there's still a gallon or two of fluid left in there. But I have my bucket down at the bottom. It'll catch it. It just won't be able to reuse this here that comes out. This too is 18 millimeter. there she goes. While that drains, I'll go get the fitting that was supplied in the kit. We'll wait till the rest of that drains out of there. Yep, it's a messy job. Here's the fitting that was supplied in the kit. Got an O-ring on this end that goes into the tank. You got an O-ring there, and that's what your hydraulic line is going to screw into. Oh, that has drained enough. We'll slide that on in. Now, they said it was a 3/4. It'll work to tighten it up if we can get to it. May have to use a socket. Yeah, I think a long socket will work better. Now, with this fitting here, you want to use a 3/4 or a 19mm to tighten it up, which was a different size than the plug. The plug was 18mm. The fitting is going to be 19. And we just cinch that up nice and tight. And now we can put our hose on there. The instructions say put this flat on there, but really a 90, well actually a 45-degree may work depending on how much excess you have in your hose. But that's it, I have plenty. Dang, well, that's a different size. I'm gonna need an adapter. So let's go back down here. Remove this lower fitting. That bad boy's in there tight. You know, all these hoses down here don't make it easy to get to. All right. And yes, there was still some more below that port. Need to come out. This connector here is a 7/8. Let that finish draining. And yes, I am catching most of it. All right, now let's see if we can get that in there. Go find me a 7/8 socket. Alright, get on there. One extension is too long, the other extension is too short. That's my 7/8 right there. Alright, get that nice and snug. Now, connect the hose. Yeah, there's a lot of hydraulic lines in here in the way, but all you gotta do is move one of them, and that'll give you enough space to get a wrench in there and turn it and get your hand in there. And those hoses were 3/4. Now, get that straight and allow it to catch. And then ease it up on there. All right, got all those snug back up. I'm gonna go through and tighten all my connections, fill her back up, and start up and see what I got. Now let's see if I can refill this while making the least mess possible. Now, I still hadn't registered in my sight glass, meaning I'm low, but I kind of figured I'd spill quite a bit, so I bought a couple extra gallons of new hydraulic fluid to go in there. And now it's in the sight glass in the operating range. I'll exercise it a bit, it'll drop down. But when it's fully extended like this, it's at its fullest. So really, add another couple gallons and it'll be good. But that's good enough now to run it through its motions and make sure everything is straight. Now, before we run out of deadlight, before we run out of all our daylight, let's do a quick functions test. Might help if I turn the key on. Well, we didn't have any error codes. I don't see any leaks. And as I said, no leaks, no error codes. Fluid is still in the sight glass. Let's check some of the other connections. Got no leaks down at the quick disconnect. And I say once I get the flail mower put back together, get the seal changed, I'll hook it up and we'll see how it goes. But like this is a non-pressurized lawn anyway, so shouldn't be any fluid coming through there until we get it running, and even still it won't be hot pressure. There's the union, no issues, everything is tight. No evidence of pinching or stretching. So there you have it, YouTube family. Installation of the case drain kit on a Cat 308E2. Very simple process. The instructions calls for one long line. It's about, I think it was like 27 feet. 28 probably wouldn't hurt, but I went ahead and split it in half. And as you see, it's pretty, again, pretty simple instruction. Now, get my flail mower put together and get that on, and let's put this thing to work. I appreciate you sticking around to the end and watching the video. If you liked it, please subscribe. Come on back, tell your friends about it, and I'll see you on the next one.